Hello everyone! Today on the TTRPG flip through, we are going to talk about Perils and Princesses, a fairy tale adventure RPG. This is a wonderful game that is built off of some of the old school inspired titles that you may have interacted with in the past couple of years, like Into the Odd, Morkborg, Mouse Ritter, but it really marries this theme with the design in a really great way. So I'm very excited to bring it to the bookshelf. Thank you to Ryan Lynch, who created this, for reaching out to me. He also goes by Outrider Creative under socials. So this is a great addition to the bookshelf. What is Tabletop Bookshelf? We are an independent online bookstore dedicated to tabletop role-playing games. We particularly like to support independent publishers and crowd-funded projects just like this one. So we're really happy to bring this to the bookshelf. Thanks again to Ryan for reaching out and offering me this opportunity. So let's dig into Perils and Princesses. A reminder that I do most of these off the cuff. I may get something wrong. I may forget something. If so, please add to the comments. All right, so let's flip into it. So right here, Ryan does a great job here of utilizing the cover space, providing the quick start rules at the beginning, and some quick references at the end here, so very easy to get to these core rule sets. And I actually ended up reading these before I went into any deeper into the book. And I think it really helped kind of set the stage for me, especially someone who has some experience with the game or with tabletop role-playing games of what you're going to experience in this. And we have this great opening picture here showing a princess against this skeletal fire figure, and this is the kind of artwork you'll see throughout this sort of hand-drawn, whimsical art. You'll see mixes as well as stock art in here, but it's all put together in this well-designed package. It's always harkening back to these themes. And the theme is evident right here. You have this princess and you have this dark peril, and this gets to which is described here on this page. This is a core principle of this game. It's gritty and pretty, and that plays out through the color choices here, the illustration, and the theme and setting. So it's really about bringing those ideas of princesses that we may have pulled from our popular culture, knowledge, and history. Most popularly, I think for most people, at least in the U.S., that's going to be Disney princesses, but it could be from other media as well, and pushing those princesses into places that are dark and scary and gritty. Um, and so that collision is what sets this game in motion. So part one here goes to talk about the princesses, which is really great. It's a lot of games will start off diving into rule sets. This goes straight into the character creation. I think for a lot of players, that's how most people are going to interact with your system as players. So to give them upfront the idea of what sort of characters they will play in this world, I think is really great. And it's a very straightforward process to create your princess. And it does here, there's a great note up here describing that, a princess isn't necessarily confined to a certain gender. And it makes the argument that Bilbo Baggins was acting princess-like and Luke Skywalker was acting princess-like. So again, making clear to players that this is an accessible story. Don't let gender be a barrier for your entry into it. And then when you flip the page here, we get to talking about naming your princesses and your fairy godmother. But what I like about this setup is this style here, where you can see this mixing of fonts and imagery. Really, it resonates or echoes back to other old school work like Into the Odd or Morkborg, and it's done in a way that again captures the spirit of the game, captures those thematic elements. So let's roll up a princess name, and again giving you gender options here as well. So I brought my dice with me so I can do a little roll ups here. So we got a 10, so this is going to be Lilac of the Whispering Summit. Great. So now you have your princess name. Let's go to a fairy godmother. We're going to need a D8 for that. one. An odd old woman with a twinkle of mischief in her eye. Great little hook there for you to start your creative character journeys. And then you have a gift, and your gift in this game is similar to class in other systems. It really defines what your special abilities are, your magical powers, and some are more traditional fantasy, elemental connection, but there are ones that are more thematically tied to the world, like the kitchen magic idea. And then after that, you get your full magazine spread of each of the different gifts. So we have our Wild Heart here. They have an innate ability, so they can speak with animals and intuit their feelings. So again, this is an idea that your character is not starting like a level 1 commoner. They already have some abilities. They are a princess. And then you are given these special abilities, and you gain 1 level in order. And the way that these gift abilities work is you have your gift dice, and this is a great efficient system. So if you have a level 2 gift, you have the ability to potentially roll 1 or 2 of the d6 to come up with a result. And the effect of that result is a combination of the sum, which would be the total of the roll. So in this case, it would be 3. So you can summon friendly local animals to summon your aid by whistling a distinct tune. So some small animals. So I just rolled 3, so I could summon 3 small animals, or dice large beast. So if I roll 2 dice, that would be 2 large beasts, deer, mountain, alligators, etc. So you'll see this system play out in really unique ways throughout it. I love it because you're only, again, using these d6 dice, but you are able to control the power of your wish by adding or subtracting these dice. There's a variance to effect that's tied in there. And there's also a drawback mechanic that I'll get to later. The other thing about this, let's flip to another page just so we can get an example of some of these other just great illustrations here. So the other thing to note here is there's only 4 levels of progression. So you may think, well, that's not very much, but I would say that this game is really designed for one-shots or for small campaigns. So having only 4 levels of progression is totally fine. And I do even recommend, Ryan recommends that you, if you're going to play a one-shot, to actually start your characters at level 2. And I think that's a great idea. It gives them access to more of these special abilities, like an elemental connection. At first level, they can shape dice times 5. So again, if you're level 1, you're only getting that 1 dice. But if you're level 3, you could potentially roll 3 dice and get 3 times 5 cubic feet of effect. And then there's a blast at level 2, where again, you're doing some damage here. And that's going to be a roll of the dice. And again, you have the ability to control that. Maybe I just want to roll 1 dice and only use 1 of my gift dice. And again, the gift dice are a resource that is recharged during a rest. So there is definitely a rest mechanic that is needed here. Healing Touch, you have your healing class. And then your Powerful Friendships class, a Sage Intellect, your Librarian, or your Sage. And here, let's look at some of these mishaps. So this will happen on gift dice. And again, a nice thing that happens throughout this book as well is it gives you these little reminders of how things happen. So your mishaps here, it's a doubles on the gift dice. So what that means is if I'm only rolling 1 dice, I'm never going to have a mishap. But if I roll 2 dice, there's a chance if I roll these 2 5s, I have to look down here and see what's going to happen. I'm manic. You have just so many good ideas. You become woozy. So those are the effects, and those are tied to your abilities, which I'll get to in a second. So you can imagine there's a nice risk versus reward system here with these gift dice. You can keep adding more gift dice to make it more powerful, but every gift dice you add, you're going to increase your chance of rolling that double at a mishap. So a nice, tight little risk and reward system. So now we get to our stats here. These stats are really simplified, and they are a perfect fit for the system. You have Resolve, Grace, and Wits, and these are used. There's no skills, so these are used whenever you're doing your tests or your checks. And this is a roll under system. So if you have a grace of 11, you're trying to roll 11 or under to make a success. And that may be a little bit different for people who are used to 5e, but it's really quite a nice system once you get used to just thinking about it in a little bit of a different way. Players are doing most of the rolls in this game as well. And then you have your heart points, which are similar to your health. It does have that old school roll your HP, so you could end up with some pretty low HP, but it has a generous buffer of you giving +4 HP. And we'll get to the damage system a little bit later. Everyone has talents that are tied to their gift, but they also have a hidden talent. So let's see what another talent could be. Calligraphy or baking, again, giving you an option here. And then you have your stuff, and most of the characters have a starting kit. And I think it's important though to look at what is standard starting equipment here. So torches, trail food, a sleeping roll. This all gives you a sense that of what tools are going to be used in the system. So they're giving you torches, they're giving you trail food, they're giving you a bedroll. This is a game about exploration, about going into dark spaces, perhaps going into the wilderness. And so that is giving you an indication of what type of stories or adventures that this game is most well suited for. And that would be, in this case, I think dungeon crawls and hex crawls in particular. What's in my purse? You can have some other nice little detailed table here of what other things might be available here, and with these nice little prompts. I will always carry my jar of superb glue. Glad I remembered my packet of chalk sticks. And number 3 is, how did this get in here? A sad music box. And these items, again, if you are familiar with old school play, it's about the unique combination of tools in a lot of cases to overcome challenges. And all of these items in here, I think, are also tools or have the potential to be used to, affect an encounter in the world. They're very tangible objects. Now you have a nice illustration here of weapons. This also reminds me of Morkborg weapons page here. Let's see if I can flip it open to it pretty quick. But there's definitely, again, there's echoes to these other systems and books throughout this. And so, yeah, there are some dangerous weapons in here. Again, this is a gritty world. You may get into a combat situation. But there's also stuff with a little bit of whimsy, like a parasol or a frying pan. So a great, I think, a complete selection for your Princess Adventure. Okay, so Perils. Started with Princess, let's go to Perils. So this gives you instructions of how to play. Most of the time you're rolling a d20 to test your virtues, like I said before, against Resolve, Grace, or Wits. You're trying to roll at your score or lower for a success. You also have advantages or disadvantages. You're rolling 2d20 and taking the best result or the worst result, depending on that. And this advantage disadvantage system plays into the sickness system as well. And then you have your d6 dice. These are used for your gifts, and you have your d4 for your heart dice. And your heart dice there's bonuses that you can use as a reaction. So you can use them to, if someone else is close to succeeding, you could give them a d4 heart dice as a reaction to help them get that success. You can also use that when you picnic, so essentially a short rest, to recover HP, or recover your heart points. And again, these will be used up, and you will have to rest to recharge them. And now here's the list of the ailments. So you could be weary, woozy, or befuddled. There's only those 3 states, and tying each of them to an ability and a disadvantage on that ability roll. So a very succinct ailment system, very easy for new players to understand. There's not a lot to memorize. Gives you rules about advancement and some optional rules to add some extra power, some extra gifts, which might be good if you're running through a first campaign and you want to give your players access to all the fun toys that are available in the system. So then it goes a little bit more into the gameplay here and what adventure looks like in this game. One of the great things this does is the way it handles time. Whenever your players, this is a fail forward system, so if your players come to something where they fail all their rolls, they can't get past like a door perhaps, the GM could offer that, or a couple of players that could say, well, could we just spend some time to work on this? And the GM should say, yeah, you can spend some time just to work on that and try to figure out how to open up that stuck door. But there will be there's a good chance that a wrinkle, or there is a chance that a wrinkle will happen. And a wrinkle is a random encounter, or a random event, and it's a 1 on a roll. And what type of dice you roll depends on the threat level. So if you're in a dangerous environment, you're rolling a D4, the 25% chance for a wrinkle to happen. And it gives you some examples of wrinkles. So in a dungeon, a tool looks like it's about to break. So you could say, I'm opening up that door, and it looks like, I got it open, but that crowbar is like in really bad condition now. So really good fail forward system, moves the story forward. And exploration on the next page, again, thinking about the items that are provided for your characters. This is a game of exploration. It talks about light, and it talks about darkness and how to handle that in relation to range, and also how to do searching. So again, kind of helping the GM and the players through probably the most common tasks within an exploration adventure. Fighting. Of course, there is going to be fighting in this game. We saw the weapons. Now, one of the core themes of this is that combat is usually not the optimal solution to a problem, or there are other ways that are non-combat to get through problems, but there are monsters, and there is a chance that at some point it will blades will be drawn. Another mechanic that I really like in this system is the initiative system. So this isn't a typical roll your dice, this is where you are in the initiative order. You are doing a wits check. If you succeed on that wits check, you are going to go before the monsters or before the GM. If you fail, you're going to go after the GM. So, in most cases, that's the way that that's what really matters with combat is, are you going before or after the monster in most cases? And so, it's simplifying those ideas down to a simple mechanic that's easy to follow and easy in gameplay. The wound system. So you do have limited HP. You could potentially only have 4 HP to start, and a swing from a sword could take you down. What happens then? Well, when you roll to 0, you roll on your wounds table, and effect could occur out of that. It may be something that's actually not too bad, like just a flesh wound, where you're really hurt, but you're becoming battle hardened. You roll a d12, and if it's higher than your HP, you use the new value, so you actually could become stronger potentially. And then your friends can also, heal you with first aid. Now, if you do get to 0, you're going to end up with a trauma. And again, you're going to, you have essentially 3 traumas until you are out of the game. So this is not a game where like Morgborg, where your characters are going to die frequently when they hit 0. You're going to get opportunities. Player death is not a, a major part of this game, but that threat or that lingering trauma possibility is always there. Magic. So the magic system, again, there is a magic. You are using this dice and sum system, your gift dice, to use your magic spells. So let's look at an example spell here. We have magic dart. Let's look at magic dart first. So fire dice magic bolts. Each one of these bolts deals an amount of damage shown on one of the gift dice. They can't be dodged. So this is similar to your magic missile. Let's say I'm going to roll my 2 dice. I got a 6 and a 3. So I shot off 2 magic bolts. One did 3 damage and one did 6 damage. That's pretty serious in this game, where most monsters have low HP. And again, you're going to have that possibility, though, whenever you're rolling doubles or higher, that a magic mishap could happen. So if I had rolled a 5-5, I got intoxicating power and I would be woozy until your next rest. So again, that risk and reward system is tied into the magic system. There is a nice list of probably your most common used uh, magical effects, and ones that I think relate to the setting in the system, like the bubble in particular. I definitely have this idea of a protective bubble around princesses buried in my memory bank somewhere. Wondrous items gives you a sense of how to uh, use magic items, and some of these magical items again are pulled from fairy tale themes like magic beans or pixie dust, poison apple. And then you have your relics, which are I would say your very powerful magic items. They will give you an extra gift dice to roll, and but they do come with or they work best when they come with a unique recharge mechanic. So this one, and they give you some ideas for creating random recharge mechanics, such as bury it in sacred soil overnight. So that's great. You use this item and you say, I need to go find a place with sacred soil to bury it to recharge this item. Herbs and mushrooms. Again, I think this ties into, there is a cooking magic princess, and this is a common, I think, idea in many princess stories of foraging for the right herbs or mushrooms, making potions with that. Gives you some good ideas of potions such as spider's touch. It's sharp like vinegar. Your hands become tacky and nimble. You can climb walls and ceilings with ease until you spend time. So again, that spend time mechanic here is coming in as a limiting factor. Another simple, effective use of the system. We have your enchanted weapons. Again, a common idea within the fairy tale and fantasy genre. Gives you some great examples here. And of course, your silver dagger against werewolves. Now you have a list of monsters. It does give you a random monster roll here. Now, looking at the monster stat blocks, and again, let's just want to talk about these great illustrations one more time. Like this princess staring down this black spider in this pink web, just really effective, really well done, very engaging, draws you into the system and the world. Lots of nice creepy monsters for your princesses to go against. And looking at these stat blocks, they're pretty straightforward, very simple. They have HP, they have a save, they have an attack, and so they don't have grace, wits, or resolve. You're just going to roll 1 dice to save in most cases. So again, very simple system for your GM to run. Drop these in, which I think also is really nice. If you're with a group of players and maybe you don't have anyone who's done GMing before, I think this would be a really easy game to be your first GM experience. And that's helped by the adventure at the end of this. Again, fantasy, fairy tale creatures. You've got your troll, you've got your unicorn, even the deadly dragon. Look at that great art. Let's do a little close up there. And you can see there's this mix of, illustration and perhaps some old stock art, similar to Borg Borg Into the Odd. It does give you a way to create a monster here, so let's roll our monster. I get to roll a d12, best dice. All right, so a d12. Beware of the dark herder who haunts the nameless depths. Look out for their ferocious teeth. They are hungry for golden treasure And legend has it they can change their appearance wherever they want. So you have this dark herder with these sharp teeth who can change shapes whenever he wants. That's a great combination. You can already from that, I think, create a scenario or an encounter that would be interesting for your players. And beyond monsters, there are also curses, doom, gloom, fairy tale descriptions, again, coming into the system here, coming into the setting. And it gives you, again, another challenge beyond combat that your princesses will have to deal with and find solutions to. Gives you a role for strangers, and it does have reaction rolls here. Again, this is a good old school way of determining randomly how a character will react to these princesses showing up. And then there's a couple other nice random tables here that will help flesh out the world as you have your adventure, and it's giving you fairy folk because this is a fairy tale world. So, I met a gnome, and their name is, let's see. Oh, let's roll the d20. 8. Cobble. And maybe I had supper at their house. You may want to know what's for supper at anyone's house. Dandelion greens and roasted chestnuts. So these random tables in any book are best as when they are a good window into the setting, the world, the type of stories and adventures that are going to happen. And this again is doing a great job of that. So how is the weather? And I always love a weather table when you start up the morning. Tell your players that it's unpleasant. It's a little foggy, a little too rainy. There's a random treasure table. We got a 4, so lock it with an ugly portrait. Again, these aren't just like you found a rope, you found a torch. They're giving you a little bit of detail here, which really benefits bring the world and setting into focus. And there's not going to be an extensive list of items with prices. It just gives you some ideas of what silver pieces would translate into. 1 silver piece would be a torch, for instance. What's that? 15. A broken candle. So that's a nice little maybe your players are looking through some refuse or in a garbage bin. What will they find? So in part 3, they give you an example of play. This is, I think, a critical part of any tabletop role-playing book. I remember as a kid reading these examples of play before I had played the game, and they really gave me a sense of what this game was about, but also really made me want to play the game because I saw what was going on and what was possible. And then there is an introductory adventure. So if you are interested in sitting in a player's seat on this game, you might want to stop watching this video at this point because I will be spoiling this introductory adventure, the Rosewood Crown. So this is for a party of 2 to 4 level 1 to 2 princesses. So a great introductory adventure. I probably would have my princesses be at level 2 just so they have more toys to play with. So gives you what's going on here. There is a curse that has befallen, or a city that is perhaps under uh, hard times, and or you could use that as a hook. But essentially, there's a mysterious element where there is a statue in the middle of this village, and there is a legend about a princess who lost a crown. And through one of the hooks that's provided here, you can easily find a way for your characters to be interested or invested in finding and solving the mystery of this crown. And this is a classic old school dungeon crawl, and it comes with this great map picture. I love these maps where they give you a little bit of illustration to an idea of what's in each room here. It's all on one page, very easy to flip back and know where your players are and how everything connects. The dungeon is also, as you can see, it's circular, which is great. There's different passageways in, and there's a verticality here. It's not a straight horizontal adventure, which also gives players interesting problem-solving abilities. As they go into this, there are possibilities that they will have combat encounters. If they poke into the wrong places, they may stir the ire of some of these large insects, for instance. But as with this game, there are non-combat ways to get past any of these encounters. There is a encounter with some goblins. This offers a good role-playing possibility. Now, your princesses, if they're really brutal, they could go in and just start attacking these goblins. But in most circumstances, they're going to have an option to parlay with these goblins, and it gives you a good chance to have that role-playing opportunity with your players. There is a giant spider encounter. And again, with your players will find things throughout this adventure that are tools that could be used to overcome some of these encounters. Some of them are a little more straightforward, like I'm going to use oil to burn the web. But some of them, they're probably things I can't even think about because there would be creative combinations. And that is, again, where I think old school shines, is when you're getting these creative combinations. Your players are using these creative combinations of items in situations to overcome these challenges in interesting ways. And that is the core of what's making these good stories happen. And again, it is this thematic overlay that is so expertly done that allows these stories to have a feeling. All right, so gives you a roundup here of what happens when you're done. Oh yeah, and so the final encounter here could be really deadly. You are facing off against a powerful undead wight with a terrible sword, and it could easily do a lot of damage to your party. But as with all encounters, there is a way to overcome that encounter with minimal combat. And it'll be really fun when I run this to see how my players get around this. It gives you a little epilogue of how you can wrap up this adventure and what could come after, and your stats on your monsters and some of the treasure there. And it also gives you, if you wanted to create that mini campaign, the way to do it, or the idea that they give you is a hex map, and they give you a good way of they give you a little sample hex map to start out here, which you could easily just use this and start with this. And it has a great crossing the river mechanic. So crossing the river in fantasy and fairy tale is usually a harrowing scene, and this creates the possibility for that to happen. And also, so it gives your hex maps a sort of natural risk versus reward border. Gives you ideas of inhabitants, and again, the idea that each hex should have some piece of interest in it, so that exploration is not stale. Random encounters that could happen, and some rumors, some examples of rumors that are thematically appropriate. I'm sure you'll want to add your own. And then at the end here, giving you further reading, calling out the inspirations here. Ben Milton, always appreciate his inspiration for the work that I'm doing here. Great to see him called out here. I'm excited for Knave, for the new Knave Kickstarter. Into the Odd, which I talked about, Morkborg, Mouse Ritter, The Excellence, which we also have for sale at Tabletop Bookshelf. So check some of these books out, and then your media inspiration, Princess Bride, one of my all-time favorites. And then your list of acknowledgments. And he does offer a pretty open license to develop Perils and Princesses content, as long as you're not pretending that it comes from Outrider Media. and you're not using anything without permission, you can create your own Perils and Princess stories, which is great. And then you have your character sheet in the back, and again, your character sheets always give you a good idea of what's going to happen in the adventure. And I like this character sheet a lot. It is a simple system, or it's very accessible. I don't want to say simple. There is some simplicity to it, but it's done in a very thoughtful manner. But again, I think for a new player, it's not an overwhelming character sheet and easy for you to jump into. A couple plays for notes, and again, your quick references at the end. So that is Perils and Princesses, a fairy tale adventure RPG. Thanks again to Ryan for allowing me to have this in the shop. We do have this for sale. This is our first title that we are selling for both print and PDF, or in PDF only versions. I am committed at Tabletop Bookshelf to print work, so I will only be carrying PDFs of products that have a physical or print component. But I'm happy that Ryan gave me the opportunity to offer a PDF only option for people who want that. So you can find more details down below, and please check it out. It's a great addition to your bookshelf. And thanks again. Happy gaming, everyone.